I've foreseen into the not so distant future for Bitcoin, and there is very likely going to be a fake pattern emerging, which I do expect is going to be the next meme of this market. And that is going to be the focus of today's video. We'll also go over a little bit of alt at the very, very end of this as well. I wanted to kind of follow up on that and then follow up on yesterday's short-term time frame analysis, looking for Bitcoin to come down, off of about 98,000 bucks and play at a little bit of downside, but not a full breakdown, and kind of where that leads us into today. So other than that, I should say a massive thank you, a massive heartfelt thank you for all of the well wishes, all of the birthday wishes that Elsa received yesterday. She was fucking blown away. She's Finnish, so they're not like used to other people really talking to them ever or anything like that. And that was really awesome to see. Of course, sale is still going on with that code Elsa in all capitals, ELSA. That'll be going on for the next couple of days. Again, a very quiet sale right there with 20% off of all of the programs and services in the Teachable link in the description below. All right, so let's get on to the actual content of today. Fuck Elsa, and let's talk about the short term here first. So in yesterday's video, we were looking at 6-hour and 4-hour hidden bearish divergences being confirmed, and very likely Bitcoin to come back down, somewhere around these lows that we saw from the last week to week and a half. We have seen Bitcoin now come down to about 94,500 bucks, and overall, I don't really have much to add on to it other than that. As far as the short term does go, if Bitcoin does close below 95,000 bucks, I would look for an official retest of probably these precise lows over here, with potential for continuation, I guess, to the downside as well. But that would be about 92,500 bucks. Until we get a break of this range between about 92 to 100,000 bucks to the upside, nothing really changes here, for better or worse. Of course, this is also verified by our Fibonacci retracement right here, which, yes, I have it right there. You can see the 50% level has been holding in these $100,000 highs. Still think that Bitcoin could actually trade a little bit further north of that before the next segment. But here is the meme that I foresee likely coming into this market. And I'm sure if it hasn't already been done, there are people looking at these somewhat higher term timeframes here and looking at this as a herp and derp, a head and shoulders, which are in this case would be a reversal pattern and quite bearish. But there's your left derp, your head, and your right derp kind of being constructed here again on that tick below 100,000 bucks. And what a lot of people are going to do, what you're probably going to see on social media, is you're going to see something like this with an implied target applied to the actual perspective breakdown area, which would be below 92,000 bucks, by the way, on at least like a daily closing basis. If you see that, then technically speaking, yeah, there is a measured move significantly lower, back down around about 78 to 79,000 bucks. Do I think that that's going to play out? Probably not. But of course, that would be, I guess that would be on the board. What I suspect is probably going to happen, however, is that we're going to get this sort of scenario that I've been outlaying for the past, I guess, week now? Yeah, a week now since Bitcoin hit this high over here, a little bit over a week. And that is this. Bitcoin probably does come back down to the bottom side of this range, probably even has a bit of a break below 92,000 bucks. Just this low right here is what I'm stressing on right here. So just above 92,000 bucks. But what I suspect we're probably going to get, as not everyone, but a lot of people are going to be calling head and shoulders, holy shit, we're going down big time. We're going to get a quick move down around here, and then you're going to see this one pop back on up. I do suspect that is more likely to happen, from this current stature. Now, does it have to come down exactly from here? No, it can spend a little bit of time going sideways, maybe try another rally towards like 97,000 bucks. But ultimately, as long as Bitcoin's below 100,000 bucks, I do expect that this is something to be aware of, especially upcoming over the next couple weeks here. Now, the key component of this is going to be if Bitcoin does break below 92,000 bucks. So I'm going off of a lot of hypotheticals here, but need to pull from something. If Bitcoin does break below 92,000 bucks right here, again, I would expect a little bit lower, maybe that upper $80,000 territory. And then if and when Bitcoin does break back above, especially that $92,000 breakdown region, that's going to be a big signal for Bitcoin to pop back up, go north of 100,000 bucks, maybe even carry on with the overall rally. I think that would be like a pretty nuanced situation that would catch a lot of people off guard. You know, anytime Bitcoin has like a multi-$1,000 move, people extrapolate that move is just going to continue for forever. And you know, in the case of the downside, I could definitely see people, you know, getting very, very wary for 80,000 or 75,000 or whatever the fuck it might be. I'm sure that there's a CME gap somewhere down around there. But just something to be considerate of, because we've seen this a lot of times in bull markets, which this is a bull market. You know, you've seen, many people on this channel have seen head and shoulders patterns, which essentially fail. And there's actually an implied move to be made from the failure of a head and shoulders formation. So again, this would imply that Bitcoin first has a bit of a false breakdown and then pops back up. If that were to happen and Bitcoin does start to close back above $100,000, that implied move is no longer applied to the downside. It's actually applied to the upside. And that's where, you know, we can start to see 117, basically $120,000 pop up as like a legitimate target, thus playing hand in hand with several of the setups that we spoke about on yesterday's video. So I would be aware of that. Again, if that scenario does play out, because that, you know, these scenarios in the past have definitely caught me off guard. So I do want to be defensive against that. Anyways, moving on from there, I should also go over the daily HPDR. And we can see that the daily HPDR is basing off the 78.6 level. So again, I don't think Bitcoin's going to like break down today or nothing like that. But, you know, trading a little bit sideways here between about 95 to 90, or this would be 99 on CME. So, you know, subtract about $1,000 for that to get spot price action, relevant region as well. You know, probably not anything really outside of that range for today. I expect that this is really something that could potentially play out next week. On top of that, we do see from price statistics that Bitcoin, you know, has almost hit the bottom side of today's projected range. If we're going off of average returns, again, Friday is actually more weighted in terms of positive closures versus negative closures since 2024 began. You know, not by a huge degree, 57% versus about 43%. But the average returns are what I'm interested in right here, which is about 230 to the to the upside versus about 220 to the downside, which would give us a range to the upside. Yeah, $98,000 on spot price action versus almost around today's low, but perhaps a little bit lower, $93,500. Ultimately, you know, I could easily see Bitcoin, you know, coming down here, bouncing off this region, finishing the day more or less unchanged. Something like that would kind of make sense for today. Again, I don't think that we're going to see a major breakdown or breakout or really anything major at all today. Probably just a range play. It's probably going to be a boring day, to be honest. Anyways, if you find this content valuable, I should at this moment say that, well, consider like subscribing. You can get these videos each and every day into your inbox if that is of your interest. On top of that, I do want to go back to this setup right here. Yes, okay, because this kind of plays with what we were alluding to earlier. This is the sort of model that we've been following for the past week and a half now, that Bitcoin has been putting in, where it has these nice uniform moves to the upside, followed by uniform moves to the downside. For the past month and a half, we've seen 15% moves over the course of 7 to 8 days to the upside, followed by 10%-ish moves to the downside over 4 to 5 days. Now, this relationship changed recently, which we identified back here on, you know, I guess this is like last week, about 10 days ago, actually, yeah. And we saw a bigger move to the downside, 15% move to the downside over 3 days. So shorter time, bigger move to the downside. This was followed by a 5.5 day move to the upside of 10%. So no longer 15%, so less there, and less in terms of time as well. So we're seeing this relationship start to invert, which is very interesting to me. And now obviously Bitcoin coming down again. So if we are to play out this new sort of relationship, which this is highly speculative that I'm going over right now, but I think, you know, it could be interesting. Do we see, you know, about 3 days down from this last high that Bitcoin put in at around $100,000? Well, where would that put us? 3 days would put us Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. So perhaps for this current downside move, we could see around, I guess, Sunday, you know, forming the low. So again, I don't think that Bitcoin's going to get like a bounce, like a real bounce until early next week. Until then, I mean, you know, Bitcoin could pop back up here, you know, 97.5, 98, come back down, base around here, and then try and move up. Just want to see a higher low above this low right here if Bitcoin is going to base off in this region. But for right now, I would still be defensive of the downside to kind of close off this year, I guess. Well, I mean, the year is almost over, actually. Now that I look at my calendar, I guess it'd be opening up next year would probably be a little bit more relevant. Anyways, moving on from there and going over stochastic momentum, I should identify that all higher term time frames still in concert here to the downside. Daily time frame showing downside momentum below 97,000 on CME. 2-day time frame also showing downside below 106. 3-day also showing downside below 104 or about 104. 5-day, which is closing tonight, by the way, showing downside below 106, and the weekly, which is also closing today, showing downside below 107. So, I do think that Bitcoin is in for a prolonged corrective period here. This could take us into maybe like middle of January. At that point, I still think that the bull market is on it. It's just how far does Bitcoin retrace down here? How much time does it take? And, what does this next sort of segment look like? Because things are getting, while it is getting more boring, it is, important things are happening in the background as typical. Anyways, during this time, you probably noticed that Bitcoin, at least what I'm looking at right here is Bitcoin's going to be more or less doing range plays. So whenever Bitcoin's doing a range play in a bull market, what's the next thing on your mind? It's fucking, alts, basically. And I just wanted to update on the alt look right here because we did call a high and a lower high, thus confirming this reversal back last week. And I'd still be saying the same today as well. So do alts, play out some nice moves relative to Bitcoin during this time frame? Probably yes. I think the next couple of weeks could be decent for these altcoins. Again, this can take, this can certainly take some time, but the next sort of key factor would be coming back down below about 57.5%. But did I say 57.5? Yeah, 57.5%. And at that point, have to be looking for this one to come all the way back down to the lows that we saw from early December. And again, there's your lower low and lower high, thus reversal confirmed. And, I expect that we get altcoins kind of doing better than Bitcoin. Now, could that come with Bitcoin price action coming down and altcoins hold up better? We don't really see that in history for Bitcoin, so for the market. So I would say, again, that's another good kind of external factor that does suggest that, this is like, don't want to get too bearish here. That's really what I want to be defensive of. I don't want to get too bearish with Bitcoin coming down. While I do think Bitcoin, again, does come perhaps a little bit further down, probably at least retesting these lows at 92 and maybe having a false break down to, upper 80s, I do think that this is still going to be a major opportunity overall. Of course, if we were to draw a Fibonacci retracement from the high of this rally, let me actually get rid of this. It's going to get a little bit annoying. But if I was to draw a Fibonacci retracement from the high of this rally to the low of the last major breakout, well, the 50% level is coming in around $85,000. So possible there, possible still, but somewhere in this range, somewhere in this range is kind of what I'd describe as like the kill zone, because you're going to see a lot of people get very, very bearish, especially if Bitcoin starts putting an 8 handle on price action, and it's ripe for a fucking trap. It's what it is. You get your first sort of trappy movement right here. It could have gone a little bit higher, of course, but it is what it is. And then you get your trap on the other side right here. And that would be perfect, in my opinion, for pushing this market up, sometime mid-January, most likely. So yeah, that is where we shall leave things for today. Very nice. I'm actually in the process of compiling data for another mega video going over, just cycle targets that I want to be, having on this channel. Obviously, we've done the timing of this cycle video already. That's another mega video that I released a couple weeks ago. And this next one is going to be focused, on price targets. We don't really go over that in that video. But I do think that, there's a lot of interesting ones potentially relevant for this upcoming quarter. So yeah, like I said, that's where we'll end things for today. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. Beware of the fake patterns. And we'll see you next time. Take care, much love, and see you Saturday.